Hello and welcome. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Call. I'm Fab from Hamburg. I was just a bit distracted. I thought I wasn't recording for the podcast, but I am. In a pinch, I can always rip the audio off the YouTube video, but that's not so good. So, no, I'm recording. It's all good. Good morning. I'm a bit, got lots to do this morning. Anyway, I still want to give you a quick show and just summarize the tech news you need to know for today. Obviously, today, a day after the European elections, which are still dominating the news. So that'll be most of what you hear today. I'm pretty glad that the Conservative Party in Germany, CDU, got quite a beating. I hope part of that is for the copyright reform, although SPD, Social Democrats, got a lot more of a beating and they voted against it, so I'm a bit doubtful about that. But anyway, let's leave it at that. You'll be reading lots about the European elections all through the day or hearing about it, I'm guessing. Let's get some tech news going. Speaking of Europe here, Poland. The Polish government has announced last week, I think on Friday, that they are suing the European Union at the European Court in Luxembourg for the copyright reform. They're saying it is it's an very unbalanced law. It endangers freedom on the internet, and they are afraid of censorship. They have some reasonable points. I cannot say how much success, how much chance of success this lawsuit has, but I'm glad somebody's doing it. I find it interesting that Poland is doing this. Obviously, it wouldn't have come from the German government since they're who are supporting this law. But anyway, I hope I'll keep everybody updated on this. I mean, it's still 2 years until the local laws have to be passed, so there could still something happen before that. If I don't know. I imagine one of the outcomes could be that the court says tells the European Union that there have to be changes to the law. The commission, I'm guessing. I don't know. We'll see. I'm glad somebody's still doing something. No, maybe there's still hope. Apple has updated iOS very quickly after putting out iOS 12.3. They have now put out 12.3.1. One of the reasons, pretty big one, is that apparently the previous update broke the ability to get voice calls over LTE. So this is called VoLTE, VoLTE, voice over LTE. So that's the LTE being primarily designed to be a quick data network, but obviously you need to receive phone calls as well, and that's just the technology that enables that. Well, it's basically VoIP, right? It basically channels the voice communication over the data. As far as I understand it, there's not as much a separate channel as there was with older mobile technologies. But what do I know? Yeah, so that broke. So if you were wondering why you didn't receive any calls in the past, maybe some call, somebody said I called you and I couldn't reach you. This might be the issue, and you should everybody should obviously update to iOS 12.3.1. The updates are being pushed according to Apple, but I don't think my phone has gotten it yet. I mean, they stagger them out quite a lot. I'm just checking live here. So now tells me I have an update. Didn't tell me before, but I guess I had to check. So if you check manually, you often get it. So let's install that live while doing the show. I don't need my phone right now anyway. What could possibly go wrong? Yes, so there's some other stuff fixed. There's some iMessage spam problems where you got spam, you can flag it. Yeah. And update your iOS as always. Update your software. It's downloading pretty quickly. If the stream's going bad right now, that's my fault. Speaking of Apple, they have had serious problems with MacBook keyboards. People have been complaining that the keyboards are breaking. There is the issue of like dirt, I guess, getting under the keycaps, and then they don't work anymore. Which has especially been noticed by people who write a lot. Among them, unsurprisingly, journalists who've written about this. And Apple, as always, not really confirming that there is a problem, but they have a replacement program, and it seems to be bad because they've continued to expand this program to more and more models, and apparently they're working on fixing it behind the scenes. The Register here reporting on iFixit, so that website that takes apart devices and then looks at it. They looked at the keycaps and noticed a change. Apparently, Apple is now using nylon as part of newer keycaps. This story by the Register, by the way, is great. Headline is: that magical super material Apple hopes will hit backspace on its keyboard was nylon. And then they write the whole article as if, or maybe actually on a broken MacBook keyboard. So it has like lots of characters missing, double characters. It's hilarious. And they just keep that going. You think, okay, they'll stop after like a paragraph or two. No, they keep going. They keep doing that throughout the whole article, up to the very last sentence. It's pretty hilarious. This is why the Register is great. Vice has broken a story about Snapchat. Apparently, there is an internal tool called Snap Lion that several departments within Snapchat have access to, that was originally designed as a tool to comply with law enforcement requests. We know that these social networks, in pretty much any jurisdiction, need to comply with legal law enforcement. So basically people coming with a warrant and they need to give them user data. Snapchat not being end-to-end encrypted, they have access to quite a lot of this data. Now with Snapchat, it's a special case because Snapchat basically built its app around the fact that these snaps, yes, I want to install that software update, why not? These snaps, as they call it, delete themselves after a while if you don't save them. So there's a privacy expectation that comes with that. But this article says that their tool obviously can read out a lot more stuff. They don't directly say that, but even sounds like. If they're watching you, they can save your snaps internally. I mean, I've always believed that. Just because they're deleted from the app doesn't mean that the service doesn't have them anymore, right? And especially if they have to comply with law enforcement, I'm pretty sure that they're doing that. But even without that, they have access to lots of metadata, location information, other stuff like that. Now this Vice story says that they spoke to several employees at Snapchat and ex-employees, and basically people, not very surprising, have abused this tool. So, they looked up data on users, even though it wasn't part of a, legal law enforcement request or a court order. Obviously, they're also doing this to combat spam and combat abuse on the platform, but it's still it's one of these stories. It is not really surprising that they have a tool like that, or that it's being used or being misused. But like the Alexa story about the tech support, where they're basically listening to Alexa recordings if the system can't figure out what somebody said. It's not really surprising, but it's I think it's something a lot of people don't think about when they use these technologies. And Vice points this out in their article as well. They're saying it's just like it goes against the expectations of people using these technologies. People forget that on the other side there is human beings, and human beings do stuff like this. So I just think it's interesting. It's something to keep in mind, something to think about. That of course, if you have a platform like this, if it's if they say, okay, your content will be deleted, you need to trust them on that. If it's not rigorously end-to-end encrypted, and even then you need to trust them, so that even if you use an end-to-end encrypted messenger, you need to trust them that they don't build like a backdoor into the app. But with something like this, where it's obviously not end-to-end encrypted, it's even clearer that people at the service provider have access to your data and will look at it. And I found another story that just this will be controversial, but I think it's interesting that that shows how stuff like this develops its own internal momentum. Like, as soon as you have these tools, they will be used. And sometimes the stuff they're used for is, well, it's legal. Often it's legal, but that doesn't mean it's good. So there's a story that, so be aware, this the source for this story is RT. I know that's a problem. Russia Today, pretty much sponsored by the Russian government. Well, there's other news sources like Deutsche Welle that are sponsored by government. Just keep that in mind. Sadly, they're the only ones reporting on stuff like this, so sometimes you just have to look at that stuff. They are here reporting on a UKIP European election candidate called Carl Benjamin, and you will maybe, like me, better know him by his YouTube name, Sargon of Akkad. It's a very controversial figure. He is obviously ran for UKIP, which is not a party I would support. He has done some controversial stuff in the past. He is seen as a right-wing guy. I have to say, I know him because he has in the past produced excellent videos, well-researched videos, often talking about things other people just don't talk about, which I always find very interesting. Obviously, you get in fire under fire for stuff like that. I would not support him running for UKIP. That is not a party I support. But he's been he's been very vocal on free speech, and I support him on that. But the actual story is about him. So basically, Facebook has been he's been put on this kind of list of hate. There's like there's like an internal. I mean, this is also based on a Breitbart report, so keep in mind this could all be completely wrong, but it does sound. It does ring true from what I've read about these things in the past. So basically, Facebook has these internal lists where they, if people report you for being like spreading hate crime, they're just like research your account, or like if you get reported, they have to look up who's this guy, what is he posting, and it's basically a report about them looking at posts of his like from the past, and then there's stuff that's obviously if you believe all that being looked at like in the wrong content. So obviously they've not only been looking stuff he posted on Facebook, but also his other stuff, researching stuff like that. And for their quote here, in one instance, he was found to have run afoul of Facebook's guidelines for posting a screenshot of a homophobic slur directed at himself, reposting a commenter's anti-German rant with a seemingly neutral comment on its own, which Facebook considered supporting for a quote statement of inferiority against Germans. So this is of course all borderline stuff. Where you could say, yeah, he's we consider him to be right wing and stuff like that. But also, I mean, this all rings true for me because I've run into stuff like this in the past. Because Facebook and other social networks often class stuff as hate, which I would. I mean, this is not all, even Facebook. This is like a social thing that's happened in the past. I mean, there's government laws that class stuff as hate that I wouldn't class as hate. There was this case in the UK for this guy who burned a poppy, because he wasn't supportive of the armed forces, and he got basically arrested for that, which I wouldn't class that as hate, but okay. I mean, what I find interesting is Facebook's obviously completely in their right to do all this, right? It's their platform; they can do whatever they want. I don't think it's really good though, and I think it leads us down a path that is even dangerous. It's like that goes together with the Snapchat stuff, where they have tools. They have these tools for legitimate reasons. I mean, they need to comply with laws. In Germany, we have very strict anti-hate crime laws. I mean, we're one of the strictest countries in this regard. We've banned symbols, constitutionally banned symbols, because to us they're a reminder of of our past, a piece of our past that is horrible and really bad. And for us, posting that our constitution says that even that symbol itself constitutes hate. So I mean, they need to comply with these things, but we put these tools in place, and they are bound to get used against people. So what I find bad about this and questionable is that, yes, Facebook's completely within their right to investigate stuff like this and then decide if it's hate or not. But should they? I mean, in our, in the way, for example, in Germany, our hate crime laws were designed. Yes, they're in the constitution, they're in criminal law, and if you break them, it's a criminal offense, and the whole system is designed so that the court will look at that and decide. And these days, I see it more and more that like these decisions are being outsourced to companies, because obviously this is their platform and they need to police their own platform. But I don't think, like, going forward that's gonna work anymore, because these platforms, they become part of our social lives. I mean, being on Twitter, being on Facebook, and publishing your opinion there, I don't think constitutes a privilege anymore. It is not. You are allowed to join a company's platform and then have the privilege to post there. I think it's an important. And not even for me. I mean, for the generation that's growing up now, that's a lot more digital. It's an important part of social life, and I think we need to start looking at these things not as privileges, but as even the right to express yourself. If you get banned on these platforms, I think there are reasons why that should be. if there's neo-Nazis posting stuff that are against German law, I'm the first one who says, we should prosecute them, but the state should do that. The state should decide, not like a company. And this all goes down to why I'm even bringing this up. And people might say, okay, this is RT, Breitbart, you can't trust them. This is conspiracy theories. I'm bringing this up because I think it's a very important topic, and I think we need to be aware of this stuff. It is very dangerous to say, okay, this. Who cares? This is like right-wing people, right? They're doing this to the right-wing people. Who cares about that? By the way, my iPhone has successfully updated, so hopefully I can get calls again over LTE. Who cares about that? And I think we need to be careful, because when they use this stuff against people on the right fringe, the next time they will use it against people on the left fringe, and then it will become more and more common, and suddenly they will use it against anybody. And I like to quote one of my favorite quotes at this point from Star Trek Next Generation episode, The Drumhead, Picard's great speech on freedom of speech, where he says, he quotes a fictional judge in the Star Trek universe, and says, with the first link, the chain is forged. The first speech censured, the first thought forbidden, the first freedom denied, changes us all irrevocably. So basically what he's saying, be careful what you're doing. When you establish these things, they will get used. That's the problem. When you put an Alexa in your living room, and it starts recording things, and then you pass laws that the government, with a court order can access that, then you force companies to give them access, which will cause the companies to, create tools to give the law enforcement people access, and those tools will get misused. This data will be collected for legitimate reasons. Yeah, the Drumhead is such a great episode. I think they should show that in school. I think that seriously, that should be mandated in the curriculum. Well, at least Amazon employees that witness domestic violence get counseling, right? Says Jonathan. I don't know. See, the problem with that story for me is also like, in a German understanding, like in our legal understanding, we have an understanding where if a criminal act occurs, if a crime has been committed, the state has to investigate that. And if you see a crime happen and you do not report this, you make yourself, there's legal issues with that. It might be that you yourself are at least negligent or open yourself up to prosecution because you've seen a crime being committed and you haven't reported this. And like a company like Amazon just I completely understand why they don't investigate that. And I completely know that this opens all these other issues that are maybe even have worse consequences than what's happening now, that they're not investigating it. But still, that's kind of like in our legal understanding, it's fascinating. Anyway, I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm just saying, this opens all these kinds of really interesting issues for society and stuff that really interests me. Anyway, I'm just dragging this out, and this is not really news. It's just fascinating to me. Last story. This is the never-ending story. This, I guess, will be our story of the year. I mean, together with the Boeing 737, this has dominated most of the show. Of course, it's Huawei. Golem reporting further troubles for Huawei because with them being boycotted under this U.S. law, they're also running into trouble with Standards Association. So the SD Association, the association that governs all the SD card standards, and these organizations also hold patents, obviously, of their members, and they have delisted Huawei. And the question is, will they be able to use standards they're using. Like they use this nano memory card format, but which is their own. But they have like standards compliance so that people, if they plug the thing in, it works with their computer and stuff like that. And currently, it looks like they just can't participate in standards being developed. But down the line, it could mean more problems. They are part of the Wi-Fi consortium, so this could mean that in the future they will not be able to put like a Wi-Fi certified sticker on their hardware, which could severely, makes consumers not want to be unsecure about their hardware and stuff like that. It's very interesting. I hadn't thought about this, and that this report comes this late. I think a lot of people haven't thought about this, but obviously, like these supposedly international standard organizations, if they're like in the US, they have to comply to US laws, and a lot of those are in the US. So more problems with Huawei. These interestingly, Trump has gone and like halted this whole stuff, like the restrictions and stuff like that until the 19th of August, like most of them. But it's like, obviously, I mean, you can see by the reaction of all the other companies, they're basically already complying with this because they need to get other stuff. They need to move their manufacturing, get other suppliers. So I guess even with halting this officially, I mean, it's already having the effect it's supposed to have. I'm guessing Huawei is saying, as to register puns once again with the company name. That's just Huawei it goes, shrugs founder as analyst forecast sales slump for embattled biz. Obviously, analysts saying this is going to hurt Huawei. They're not really sure how much because, with it all being unsecure like this, Trump vacillating as he is, can't really say how bad it's going to be. Huawei is saying, well, that's how business works. We have a plan B. They're not really saying what that is, but they're basically saying they have a one policy in place, or had that for years, so that half of their chips are actually made by themselves. Obviously consumers mostly know Huawei from cheap smartphones. They're saying, well, the smartphone market in the US isn't really important for us. No carrier is really selling these. So that's not going to hurt us as much. I mean, the bigger market is hardware, networking hardware. That's a lot of people don't know about that, but Huawei is obviously in there. I mean, that kicked the whole 5G thing off. So, that's going to be the big hit for them. Interestingly, their CEO is saying that in 2000, quoting here Ren, so that's this Ren Zhengfei, that's the CEO. Ren noted that Huawei works with dozens of US-based consultancies, including IBM and Accenture, and credited them with helping build the company. He said that in 2000, Huawei was on the brink of selling to a US firm. While we were waiting for approval, the negotiation team, including me, all put on floral print clothes, running and playing ping pong on the beach, he reminisced. But a last-minute change of directors saw the US board reject the deal. Ren said that since then the company knew it would have, quote, have to square off against the US when we reach the top. That's an irony of history. I didn't even know that. Yeah, very interesting. They say they can deal with the insufficient supply and stuff like that, but it'll hurt them. But I'm feeling like this is hurting all of us as well, and like for reasons, mostly political bullshit reasons. I mean, you'd think like I keep thinking about this, right? If they were actually spying and building spying technology into the whole network, isn't it the job of the NSA to counteract that, like spy back, disrupt their operations? Like, isn't the NSA that good? Aren't they? Shouldn't that be Shouldn't they be doing that? Why are they doing this publicly? Why is there a public push? And if you think about that, it's just like there's other interests in play that I don't think. I mean, they're obviously not our interests. I'm not in the US, but I think even as a US citizen, I don't think this trade war is so much in the interest of the people as it is of the people at the top. And listening to the Daily and like the interviews and reading stuff, like if even the most staunchest Trump supporters saying, "Yeah, I support Trump, but I'm really hurting here because of this." Anyway, that's a never-ending story that will keep us in news for years to come. I'm not complaining about that. And that's pretty much it for today. I was planning for this to be a short show, but as usual, I managed to trick myself and build in a rant in the middle. Hope that's okay. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow with more tech news. I guess a little bit more will happen once this whole European election thing. It's not like it's not happening, but it's just not being reported, right? Once that calms down. Anyway, I hope you have a nice day. I hope it's all good where you are. I'm having sun's coming through again here. It's been so sunny recently. It's mad. You could almost think you're not living in Hamburg. It's not much warmer than it usually is. It's just more sunny. Anyway, yeah. Have a good day. See you tomorrow. Until then, hang in there. In the trenches of tech support and whatever else you're doing, programming, writing the code. Hang in there. We depend on you. See you tomorrow.